Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Monday, March 16th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is The Thomas Hunt Show. Checking out the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down 5.33% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 5,083, a high of 5,948, and a low of 4,513. That's $1 for 19,644 Satoshis. Checking out our top stories, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 7.37% with a last of 21,476. At one point today, after starting out with a circuit breaker, a complete 9% drop, beating the 7% drop needed for the circuit breaker, the Dow was down as much as 2,000 points, as low as 20,448. In keeping track of the news today, the S&P recovers some of its steep losses after halt, now down just 6%. Also, we've had breaking news that the Federal Reserve, after on Sunday slashing rates to zero, restarting quantitative easing, is now doing another round of quantitative easing, a $500 billion round in unscheduled overnight repo. This is breaking according to CNBC. We're checking out the status of the markets, and we're going to go ahead and check in with the chat. We weren't even sure this was going to work this morning. We had the restream came up with an error saying that it might not stream to YouTube anymore, which was great because that's kind of the point of restream is to stream to YouTube and the other platforms. It doesn't really work if it just only streams to YouTube and nothing else. But we are getting the chat set up here on the World Crypto Network. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Thumbs up are free, and that's how YouTube can tell if it's a good show. That's their status. That's how they judge. So let's check this out. Marketing. Oh, it almost works. Maybe a little bigger. No, there we go. We got a like. Someone liked the show. Trying to get the like bar in here. Let's see. Top chat. No, not the top chat. Oh, 14 watching now. That's close to like bar. How did I do this before? Bigger? Anyway, we're keeping an eye on the price of Bitcoin, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, everything else that's going on now in the markets, and, of course, the virus that one must not say its name. Even by saying its name like I did in the title of this show, we could be demonetized. We could be taken off of the YouTubes. I mean, the whole thing is happening now, but we're going to go ahead and take that chance. It's not that important. It's more important to properly label the show. If we're going to talk about the virus, let's go ahead and talk about the virus, right? I'm trying to make the like bar bigger so you can see it and see the importance of liking this show as we're rounding up to 5 likes. I've been working with Open Broadcaster over the weekend, trying to, that's really stretching it out, trying to make the show better and trying to improve the graphics. We've got the brand new Bitcoin ticker down there, thanks to bitcoinaverage.com. Of course, I just crapped it off their page, so I don't know how much thanks they need. We've also got the chat coming up. Say hello in the chat. Give us a thumbs up in the share. Say hello yourself in the chat. Getting a new window capture here. Open Office, Open Broadcaster. Here we go. Looking for the chat. Finding the chat. Ho, the world's biggest chat. That's the kind of chat that we need. World's biggest. So here we are, setting up the chat, getting ready for another exciting moment of coronavirus panic. So let's see. 18 watching now. Oh, that bar is too big. That bar is too small. That bar is just right. Not really, though. All right, we'll try to make the chat big, make the like bar smaller. But it's pretty much impossible to talk about something else while this is going on. So how are you guys doing? Is your stocking up going well? Are you enjoying your canned tuna and supplies? We're so early into the quarantine and the self-quarantine. You probably still got some great food. You're probably doing fine. But we're doing all right here. broke into the old coronavirus whiskey, getting ready for the end of the world. Didn't have that many stories ready for you, but let's go ahead and go down the line one more time in case you guys are just tuning in now and giving us that like and the share and saying hello and where you're from in the chat. The price of Bitcoin is down 6.33% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 5,033, a high of 5,948, and a low of 4,513. Interestingly, the price of Bitcoin did dip even lower, touching 4,550, 4,560 at some points today, 4,700 before returning above 5,000. That's $1 for 19,761 Satoshis. Over on the Dow Jones Industrial, too small, not zoomed in average, they are down 8%. Looks like they're trending down again right now. They had a major drop at the opening, almost 2,000 points, all the way down to 20,393. But much like the price of Bitcoin, they've seen a slight recovery to 21,302. However, it's pointing down again after lunch, although we only saw the 7% drop for the circuit breaker, unlike my poll on Twitter, where they believe that there would be a full 20% drop. My Twitter is very bearish on the Dow, is what we learned today. S&P recovers some of its steep losses after halt, now down 6%, which is kind of like being up. Breaking, the WHO says some countries aren't running enough coronavirus tests. Test every suspected case. Thank you to the WHO for saying this, as someone that lives in a country that hasn't been testing enough people. Let's keep moving. So we have the Federal Reserve cutting rates to zero. We talked about that a little yesterday. They're restarting quantitative easing. That's money printing. They're going to be using that full range of tools to pump $700 billion into asset purchases. They're going to be rebuying treasuries and helping the banks. That $700 billion that was announced on Sunday is not enough. Today is Monday. We have breaking from CNBC television channel. Fed to do $500 billion in unscheduled overnight repo. So we're talking $1.2 trillion being pumped back into the economy. Crypto prepped before the coronavirus went global. That's right. They've all been talking about it on Twitter, and now they're crowing. Ever since the article about techies wanting to not shake hands went viral, ha ha ha, it's a pun. The crypto Twitter has been very patting themselves on the back about being right about the virus and right about everything. But crypto Twitter is a little reactionary at all times. So this time they were right. All the other times, not so right. Be sure to like this show. Give it a thumbs up and a share. I see we've got 35 people watching now. We've got 12 likes. Last time on the show after the big crash, it seemed that we got about 200 likes. We had about 500 people watching, and this led to that magic combination of people calling in. So let's go ahead and keep building. Maybe if we could get 20 or 30 likes today, we'll get 2 or 3 phone calls. That'd be pretty cool. We're working on flattening the curve, though I don't know that it's working very well, and I also don't know where this dashed line is of the healthcare system capacity. I fear that the healthcare system capacity is very low, and the curve is very aggressive. There was a chart this morning on Twitter of the U.S. curve, and it was starting to match the other curves. Hello, caller. You're just a second. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. It's Sean from Pasadena, California.
Hey, Sean. How's it going?
Good. Looking for some more Thomas Hunt insight.
Oh, what's your ideas now?
Man, what's the point of gold, crypto, silver if they go down in lockstep with the market? I mean, I understand like people have margin calls to answer to, but come on, man. We're just repeating what happened in 2008.
Well, I think I saw a really good tweet today, and the guy put it in his head. He said, uh, crypto and Bitcoin are supposed to be a safe haven against hyperinflation, not against a total market crash. So I really feel like right now we're experiencing one of these once in a lifetime. They're going to write about it for 100 years, total market crash, where there is no safe haven. And I know I'm certainly guilty of it myself. I was sitting there watching the Dow go down a week or two ago, and I was saying, I've got Bitcoin. I'm safe. I'm going to be fine. It doesn't matter. And I underestimated the size of this crisis. And, I'm just a normal guy, not a government guy reading reports or a CEO or whatever. So there's no reason that I should be right on everything all the time. So it's not anyone's fault that they picked right or wrong, that this one was the serious crisis. And for everybody that prepped up and they're like, oh, I nailed it on this one, there's at least 5 other ones you got it wrong on. Come on. I mean, I was there. I have stuff left over from 2012. I have stuff from the W. Bush elections. I mean, there's been fear before, but this time, what the markets seem to be saying, what the people on TV, and what the actual realities of we need to follow now, Italy and China, we're going to close down the way that China closed down. So no, I don't think there is a safe haven. I think we need to get rent money. So you just gotta, like, if you got a job, you're all right. If this is an investment, you're a gambler and you're underwater now. I mean, I had Bitcoin at 3,000 and it used to be worth 18,000. So that felt pretty stupid. That was like, oh, good one. But I also had some at 1,400 and it went to 200. And, I had some at 10,000 and it went back to 3,000 or whatever it was, maybe 300 even. So there's always been these times where we're crazy underwater, but this one's different. It's all about the virus. It's all about this crazy world we're living in. So I don't know. Things are overwhelming. What do you think, Sean?
I'm in LA, and people still don't get it. They're going around. There's people at the mall, business as usual. I mean, traffic is down significantly, but I went to a liquor store. There's still like jugs of water. The guy behind the counter was laughing at me, and I'm like, I didn't say anything. I'm like, okay, man, keep laughing. Like you said, they're gonna shut the whole thing down. Like, that's the only way. Once these infections in the U.S. pass France, Spain, and then you overtake Italy, and then you overtake China. I know those numbers are fake from Iran and China, but once we have like over 100,000 cases in America, Trump's narrative that we have this thing under control. I mean, the guy never tells the truth anyway, so you can't, believe what he says. But once we hit 6 figures in infections, we overtake all the other countries, then I think people will realize that a national lockdown is necessary. Because in Italy, they locked it down. Their numbers are still going up, but it's not going up exponentially. In China, in Wuhan, when they shut down the city or the province, according to them, the infections went down. Of course, that's a communist nation. They can shoot people on the street if they're not following orders. But in America, especially some of the Bitcoiners and the gold bugs, we're libertarians. We're not going to let the government tell us what to do, right?
That's right.
But in this case, I mean, if everyone stays home right now for 2 months, people are going to die, and the virus will die out with it. The virus needs a host. If you can't hop from one organism to another, the virus will die with the host. But I keep telling people, I tell environmentalists all the time, don't complain about global warming if you're not going to complain about low interest rates. Low interest rates beget more borrowing from the banks. That begets more construction. Right here in my city, there's a street that's put up 6 or 7 apartment complexes in a city that can't hold 6 or 7 apartment complexes. But because interest rates were low, the REITs came in, they purchased the land on the cheap, built up these high-rise apartment buildings, and now the city that was once sustainable, they could go to the 2 grocery stores in town. Now everything's off the shelves because you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 extra people that weren't here 5 years ago. So low interest rates are the result of the overpopulation of these densely populated cities. Yeah, I just going off on a tangent there, man. I'm just
Well, I definitely, it's shocking to hear that people aren't taking it seriously and that they're still out at the bars and they're not at home prepping and stocking up. I mean, I know part of it is we're so used to ignoring these things, and I think they're talking in the chat. Yuva says that he misses his sports ball, and I feel the same thing. But at the same time, everybody that was into sports ball and basketball and whatever else you want to say, they were all trying to be distracted. They were all trying to say, well, there's all these problems out there, or the world's complicated, or all these kind of things. And I'm going to focus on, triple doubles. I'm going to focus on, rebounds, all these kind of things. Oh, well, that's over now. Right? And I think that would have been a big wake up point. I thought it's been 3 days.
Thomas, the wake up point.
Yeah.
Thomas, the wake up point that I've seen is when you go to your Trader Joe's and your local grocery store, and they've lined up all the carts in front of the parking lot entrance. No entrance. We're out of food.
Whoa.
A couple of people have woken up. They're like, uh-oh. So for those of you listening out there, go to your small liquor stores, your mom and pop grocers. I can still find stuff over there. The sheep are going to the big grocers. And, if you have to go into a little bit of debt, you buy the more expensive water, the more expensive granola bars. If you can't get your red beans and your rice anymore, those things are still available. But living in LA, we're in the desert. I'm just concerned about supply chain disruptions. Everyone keeps saying, oh, you think they're going to run out of beans? They'll just deliver more. Yeah, but at some point, if this thing goes on for a year, you think the farmers out there are going to magically grow beans overnight? It takes time.
People have to work in the fields. People have to drive the trucks. We're even starting to see it
Right.
in the media. There was a staffer on the Today Show who was sick, so now they I don't know, they're still doing the show, but they're going to pull Al Roker, who's an elderly man, and some other guy. They're going to pull him off the show because they're old for like a day, and then they're going to bring him back. They were starting to space out the anchors on the coverage of the debate last night. They couldn't be close together. People have got to wake up. I mean, this is, nobody wants there to be a one except maybe the prepper guy in the chat. But everybody else, like, wake up. This is it. This is the prepper dream. This is I have one bottle of this. They probably have 10. Having 1 to 3 is probably good. But yeah, it's time. It's time to go stack it up and then to stay inside. It was interesting to see on Andreas Antonopoulos' Twitter feed. He was all about stay the fuck home, stay the F home,
Yeah.
the whole feed. So, and again, you just have to, I say it all the time, but I love that quote from the good old movie, A Heist, a David Mamet film. It's Gene Hackman. And he says, when I don't know what to do, I try to think of what someone smarter than me would do, and then I do that. So if Andreas is smarter than us and he says we should stay the fuck home, we should stay the fuck home.
And for the listeners out there, Andreas did say a couple months ago, if the market crashes, so will Bitcoin. So, he's a 1 for 1 for 2020.
Doing it. Well, thanks
and
so
one
much.
last thing, Tommy.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Sean, and give us a call anytime.
All right. Thanks, Thomas. Bye.
All right. And you can give us a call now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. I was going to blah, blah, blah through my Twitter feed, and maybe I'll talk some more about exponential growth. But if you guys are ready and you want to call in, we will take your calls. And another great thing on, let's see, somebody was blocked. All right, well, we can't do that right now. But maybe Jeremy can do it. Let's see. Unblock POT. All right, Jeremy will look into that. But yeah, you can go ahead and give us a call on Skype, on the phone call thing there. And we're just keeping an eye on it here. I was going to say earlier when Sean was saying about the people and that they didn't understand it, a lot of it is a lack of education, right? I really don't think that people understand exponential growth, right? Even right here, I'm going to refer to the Wikipedia. I hope I'm going to get it right. But mainly, I kind of think back, and it's funny now. I think of James D'Angelo's video. Maybe we should pull that up. I mean, we have basically Jeremy. I think they're called peyote. That's blocked. I tried to put their name in the chat. So if it doesn't show up, they need to give me more information on Skype. But we can always work to unblock you. Sometimes people get blocked for sudden reasons or they're having a bad day. So we'll work with you in the chat. But exponential growth. Let's get James's video. Let's see. Bitcoin exponential. James D'Angelo. Let's see. Oh, fantastic. Oh, this is the best. So I got to meet this guy once in San Francisco. We're Facebook friends. He's a totally cool guy.
Hello,
Whoa, he's really loud too. Sorry, everybody. Let's try it now.
This is James D'Angelo, and welcome
James.
to the Bitcoin 101 Blackboard series.
Thanks for hanging with us,
Today, we're
James.
going to look at the growth rates of rats on islands. We're going to look at
this is
Facebook
so
and
good.
Twitter, all to understand this big issue with Bitcoin. It's phenomenal growth.
And we're going to do this for the virus
There's
too.
no
Another
one
thing we're
who's
saying.
a little
here,
bit
so.
curious about Bitcoin, who's heard about Bitcoin and starts to get involved, who hasn't heard that Bitcoin has been growing at about 1,000% a year. And this year,
All right, so James is a professor. He's going to draw it all out for us here. Presumably by talking over this, I'm preserving my YouTube rights and not bothering James's rights. But you should check out the Bitcoin 101 series on James's channel there. But what he's saying is that Bitcoin starts out, it grows like this. It grows like an S curve, right? There's this part of the curve where Bitcoin goes vertical, and then there's this part at the top where Bitcoin flattens off, right? And Bitcoin's not the only thing that grows like this. Eventually, James says, hey, there's Twitter and Facebook, right? And people really like Twitter and they really like Facebook. So they start hearing about it and they go to South by Southwest. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, whoa, Twitter, right? And the same thing with Facebook and the same thing with rats and the same thing with Bitcoin, right? And James is talking about $300 Bitcoin back here. So he thinks that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up and all these people are going to buy it. In the same way here, this is exponential growth, right? Exponential growth is the curve, this green one, right? The green one that cuts through this. So this red one, I'm going to try to remember now, this is linear growth, right? It grows like a line. This blue one is geometric growth, right? It grows steadily over time. The green one here is exponential growth. It grows crazy out of control. The thing that happens here is this bending curve goes straight up. And that's where you have your problem. Or in your user or your company thing, you have your solution, right? You have what you want. Oh yeah, so let's use the no, that wasn't it. All right, I'm going to try to use the cough button. Sorry about a little cough there. But in Bitcoin or in anything else, you want it to go viral. So that's why it's so funny to be studying virology from the other side, where going viral is bad. You don't want to go viral. So you want to prevent the S curve. You don't want exponential growth. And that's what flattening the curve is all about. And flattening the curve is going to be very difficult. To flatten the curve, we're going to have to stay home. We're going to have to not go outside. We're not going to hang out with other people. We can't go to bars and clubs and baseball games. Everything goes away because we need to flatten the curve. Are we going to be able to flatten the curve? Probably not. I mean, the thing here, we're going to try to not overwhelm the hospitals. The idea is if we could get sick in areas or in stages, that we would not overwhelm the hospitals. So that's our goal there. And that's why people need to stay home. And that's why it's shocking to hear what Sean was saying about LA, that people are just going out and life is normal. They've also been saying Ireland was out partying, New York City was out partying. That's why they've had to actually close the bars and clubs and restaurants. But there was something I saw earlier that was really crazy. Hey, there's me. That's weird. Something that was crazy earlier that I was saying is no one's taking it seriously. Bars and clubs. Oh yeah, it was that the response is all individual out here in the U.S. It's all the NBA closed basketball. So then the next day, the NHL and the soccer and some of the other smaller leagues, they followed suit. Some of the larger corporations, Nike, Patagonia, Under Armour, it's a big corporation now, I guess. They have closed their stores and they're still paying their people. So that's really neat. That's great, right? But that's not national. That's not organized. The way that we flatten the curve, which is again almost impossible, but we need something positive to focus on. So this is what we have. The way that we flatten the curve is that we stay home and we don't get sick all at once. If we get sick all at once, we overwhelm the hospitals, everything goes bad. We kind of need top-down control to flatten this curve. When New York City, when they said that they're closing all bars that don't serve food, they presumably have cut down on this party factor. At least now people have to party at home or whatever they're going to do, whatever kind of nonsense they're into. We need that. We need that. It makes it serious for people. They're like, oh, it's not a joke anymore. Oh, it's not. And maybe you've been watching the right-wing channels, and I hear Fox News and some other people. Congressman Devin Nunes was just saying a couple days ago that you should go to restaurants and it's a great time to travel. And this just isn't so. This just isn't so. We've also seen a lot of trouble on a lot of things happening on my computer. Closing down the stores, having the troubles there. People messaging me on multiple screens. But yes, we don't have any kind of organization. We don't have any structure, so we're going to have difficulty fighting this thing. What they're showing now, they've done some tests now from South Korea and from other places. And what they've basically said is they didn't just flatten the curve, they smashed the curve. In China and South Korea, their response with extreme testing, they were able to locate strands of the virus. So you got it from him, he got it from you, you got it from him, you gave it to them. And they were able to take all these people, put them in quarantine. And at the time, our media called them concentration camps and got all upset about it. And were worried about the totalitarian nature of their response. But it turns out that the totalitarian nature of their response turned out to be successful. So again, I'm not an idealist. I'm not looking for ideals. I'm a pragmatist. That means I'm looking for what works. So when we're going to fight a big virus, or if we're going to have an economic discussion or whatever we're going to talk about, I generally am going to side on what works, what we can prove works, what has the empirical evidence, all these kind of things. And this is what works, is isolating the disease, staying home, not getting sick, less people getting sick. Oh, good. So you guys can hear the noise too. Yeah, that noise is awful. But yes, so we need to stay home. And this is one of those things where we have a flexible government. We have a government that can be standoffish in normal times. They can allow businesses to provide solutions. They can have the free market and all these kind of things. And in other times, like when we went to war, and at least in World War I and World War II, the significant and last declared wars in the United States, when we go to war, we can organize. We can top down. We can say that we need ventilators. There's this thing going on in England right now where they want the companies to volunteer to make ventilators. And as horrible as it is to use top-down government control, it's a tool in your box, and you have to use all the tools in your box when you're fighting something like this, something that we don't know, something that we don't understand. We're fighting a crazy mutant space alien virus. Doesn't matter if it came from bats or from some government conspiracy. We have to fight it now. We have to fight it in the real world. And at last, the doorbell answers, and here it is. I can't even mute him fast enough.
Sorry.
Mute yourself.
Jeez. Oh, I'm so sorry.
There's got to be a mute button. There it is. Finally. It's Dan the Crypto Raptor, but we're going to mute him while we try to capture the window and then settle down the dogs. The dogs must have heard the doorbell too. That's the only thing that I can think. Now, how many windows do I have open my computer? Let us count the ways. Stream Deck, Zoom.
Well, they were just fending off coronavirus from the front door. Little sausage dogs are great at that.
They're going to save the day, those dogs. They'll fight the virus for you.
We just went shopping and we got there and we're like, oh, there's not pandemonium. You know, it was no busier than normal. There are a few of the bits that were sold out, but ultimately it was no busier than normal. And then we found out that they'd had a delivery at 1 o'clock, and it's got to the stage now where people know when the deliveries are coming in, and they're waiting at the store for the truck, and then even getting it off the truck. So we did see, like, there were no nappies apart from like 0 to 6 or 4 to 6, I think, or something like that. And yeah, and some rice and stuff definitely on the low. So I think pandemonium's it's coming to a local supermarket near you.
Well, most important question: were you able to get bog roll? Do they have any bog roll?
Well, we didn't in any way stock up, but we have enough. We've got like 9. I'm quite lean when it comes to bog roll. Don't want to go into too much detail, but waste not, want not, and all that.
Yeah, I saw a thing once. It was like Sheryl Crow or something. She was an environmentalist at the time, not a singer. And she wanted us to save it all. She said she could use just 3 squares. She was an incredible woman, Sheryl Crow.
3 squares. Yeah. She's got a great song on Sesame Street. I've been stocking up on Sesame Street since Hudson was born. They got all sorts of stars, like from Dave Grohl to Sheryl Crow, and she's got a song on there. It's pretty good.
Nice. Any Kurt Cobain Nirvana songs? I'd like to see that.
Oh, I wish. There is, there's a Foo Fighters one, which is just Dave
pretty
Grohl.
good. That's pretty close.
It's generally quite mild. It's like nice.
friendly songs for the children's. Yeah. So Dan, welcome to the show. We've got phone callers here. We've got a big chart. We've got all the graphs that you want. So what's the situation like in England? When you go out on the streets, are people panicked? Are they staying home? Are they going to bars and clubs? What's the feeling?
Nothing. Absolutely. There's no panic. Like, there's a few people. Good day, Force Green. And there's people on the streets. It doesn't seem tense. Maybe British people have just stocked up on their tea and they're all sorted. I don't know. But the fact is that it seems like isolated pockets of fear at the moment. Now, I know that we went from, like, UK went from 21 to 35, so it was a 50% more than 50% increase. But I'm not sure what the numbers submitted today on the old world meters. But I think it's starting to get to the stage where people are panicking. And we're hearing that through sort of friends, local events that have been cancelled. So there's obviously a lot of sports events that are being cancelled, all over the place, where organisers are being panicked or being pressured into it. But even localised events, we're seeing sort of, my mum was sort of saying that she's going to play golf, and then usually they do a catch up, but they're all not doing it. They're just going to play the golf that's out in the open. So I don't know. Then I'm in quite a laid back place. So I don't know. Maybe we're just taking it easy, and everyone else is like freaking out, panic.
It definitely seems to be the way. I think the CDC recently dropped their warning about public groups from 250 people to 50 people. And that shook up a lot of people, where they're like, wait a minute, that's, my local this, my local that, my soccer game, like whatever you want to call it. Everything is canceled. And I don't think we're prepared for this kind of sacrifice anymore. Someone was knocking me, saying that we needed a strong central government, and this was this is government's time to shine, basically, hate it or not. This is it. This is the moment for government. And they were like, no. I was like, well, what about World War II? What was that? Like, what did the government do there? Like, if the government didn't do something there, where would we be now? And that's a classic argument, but that's what a strong central government is for. And we have a flexible system. It can waive. Sometimes we're strong central government, sometimes we're not. And some people are, concerned that it won't wave back or it won't whatever. But still, the crisis is here. The time is now. It would be a lot easier for these businesses if they had guidance from the central government. If they could say, oh, we're going to close for X number of weeks. We're going to pay our workers X percentage of their real salaries to make sure they don't all, go out of money and run crazy in the system. And the government is going to give us some kind of a bond or something to help us get through this tough time. That's an ideal situation with top-down leadership. And both in the UK and in the US, we don't seem to have any kind of top down leadership. Certainly in China, maybe they have too much, but look at what they did, and it was replicated in South Korea. We're going to see if Italy can be successful. We're going to each little government system is going to be tested. So we're going to see what happens.
I'm just getting some stats over from like I think it was at HCPP a few years ago. We interviewed Dr. Michael. I can't remember his name is now. Dr. Michael. I say S. Lawfer. And it was a biologist. He primarily was talking actually about open source medicine, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that takes off, or if that takes off now. Now that everyone's a lot more aware that we can share genomes and stuff of viruses that just pop up out of the blue. So surely we can work together and open source all the antivirals and all the medicine behind it. But I'm just about to put in the chat. There's a cool report that this company or the organization called NextStrain did. And it's really worth just checking out because it lays out all the facts. I mean, the level of data in there's amazing. And it also dispels some of the myths. So if you're worried, if you're panicked, if you're freaking out, there is reason to in a lot of areas, but then the more you know the numbers and the more things are explained to you in layman's terms, like they've done in this report. It's actually, it's worth checking out.
And speaking of open source medicine, they're working on developing a ventilator as a Hack Day project, an open source ventilator. As you guys know, or maybe you don't know, basically the way the virus is killing people is that they're developing water in their lungs, and then they can't breathe, and then they drown. And these ventilator things make it so that you can breathe even if you have water in your lungs. And maybe I oversimplified it, but that's the basic problem that we have, right? And obviously we don't have enough of these ventilators. We don't have enough beds. Those are the two. And beds in a hospital, beds in a gymnasium, beds in some kind of controlled environment you can be sick in. So those are the two things that we need right now. In an ideal situation, we'd have a top-down response from the government asking everyone to build these, asking companies to work on bed solutions. They just had a bunch of hotels closed down here in Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure they're going to mothball them. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be turning them into the world's biggest hospital complex. I haven't heard about any plans to start, utilizing our resources for other things. This is a unique time. I mean, there's this classic story. They always tell it in history. Where one day in the United States, we were making cars and trucks and all these normal things. And the next day they said, hey, it's time for the war. The war effort needs you. And they shut down these assembly lines. A few days later, maybe even less, maybe a day, they started opening up and doing tanks. They started building tanks. So no one remembers this. No one reads any history. No one's interested in the past. But this is something we've done in the past. So, yes, we need to do it again. It's an exciting time. We've not seen this before. But, yeah, this is it. This is science, technology, home people, entrepreneurs, everybody that's stuck home. If you want to work on the here, I'll send you guys the link to the what's it called? Open source respirator, open source ventilator. And they're saying in the chat, it looks like a CPAP machine. Similar to CPAP, except that CPAP, I think, circulates the air, so that would be very bad with a virus. They were also saying something about how CPAP just sends the air out into the room, so that would be like a machine that pumps the virus into the room. So those would both be a bad place to start. But I think maybe if you were a hardware hacker, several of the same equipment, several of the same machinery, I'm picturing an Apollo 13 type situation, right? Where you're like, oh, we have all these parts, and how do you fit them together? And you guys figure it out. And if we can take some stuff off the shelf and duct tape it to this and duct tape it to that, I don't know if it's more complicated than that, but that seems to be what they're talking about. And if you're a hardware hacker and you're looking for a fun project, you're stuck at home, I think this open source ventilator would be a cool project.
Maybe someone should start a tally coin to raise some funds for it. I was just giggling away there because I got a text message from someone who I'm on it's just a mailing list essentially, and they've they sell various things, and now they've added toilet rolls to their list. So even organized criminals are selling toilet roll now, like in all the sketches where people are like, "Oh, you want to buy a toilet roll, mate?"
I tried to go down to Amazon just to see if they had any kind of a program where they're like, "Oh, you forgot to order hand sanitizer, so we'll give you just one or one per customer," or some kind of like, a little pack where they're like, "Oh, everyone should have a COVID preparedness pack," and we at Amazon have taken steps. No, no, no. It's just a bunch of price gouging and badly labeled stuff. I saw some of the like vitamin gummies that I bought 2 weeks ago have doubled in price. That's a bit suspicious. That raised up my immune system. I experience the value even more when I eat those gummies. They're much better now that they've doubled in price. But yeah, all that's happening. There's no kind of decency, no kind of for your fellow man. But yeah, we need
One thing
we need
they did do was there's a limit now. The actual supermarkets internally are putting limits. So where we just went shopping, there's a limit of 6 items of any items per customer now, and I'm not sure whether that's picked up or throughout the self scans, or whether it's only the cashiers sort of putting their own sort of limit, saying, look, you can't have that many. But I think it's good that they should do that, and especially the example that's been given about the elderly and them having difficulties, particularly being able to ration. So someone who can't stockpile, they get a pension, it's a small amount per week, and there's shelves left empty. And I think then we could also put something forward. Oh, caller,
All
for
right.
helping out the elderly.
Hello,
This
caller.
is
You're
live.
live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name's Bill, and I live right outside the city of Sioux City, Iowa.
Hi, Bill. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
So, gentlemen, appreciate your show. But if you would, I have a perspective on the virus and the numbers that create a mind-opening experience, and just basic math and basic common sense. And don't need a tinfoil hat to grab this, but check me on this hard, firm, judge me, and tell me if I'm wrong. So the scenario is always the media is pressing and pushing, hey, here's how many people have the disease. And then they're always pressing and pushing, here's how many people have died. And that's how they come up with the numbers. But through my eyes, that's nothing more than a great deception, ? Isn't it true that it takes 14 to 21 days before all people end up either in the dead category or the totally recovered category? True or not true?
I think from what I've read, it can come, or there's a few people saying that it can come back. So that is a concern at the moment. So the idea of herd immunity, that's not 100% clear. But in terms of the death rates, I think I would agree in terms of the numbers. We've got the main two figures we're fixated on are the amount of cases and the amount of deaths. Now, if a lot of I think the numbers are impacted by loads of external factors, and they have to be taken with a pinch of salt, because if, for example, one of the main issues with the death counts in certain areas is that the ventilators have been overstretched, then it means the death rate is only is valid in that area per ventilators per bed, I suppose, and how well the medical facilities are. Also, where a lot of people have been told in different countries, been told to stay at home. So you might have 10, 15,000 people who have got it, but they've just got the cold or a really sore throat. And we're not seeing those numbers. We're seeing a much lower count of the people with the serious cases that do have it, and because testing just isn't ubiquitous. Yeah, so that's one thing. So and the 14-day thing, I don't know. I think there's more movement than that. I think that it seems like it can go up to 24 days. I read that you can have it for, and then there's also reports that you only start spread it for the first 3-4 days of having symptoms, and then after that it's gone. But there is a lot of conflicting information at the moment, so that's why it's yeah, it's hard not to, to take certain facts from certain people, but what I found is you just need to have a consensus. You just go out, find so many different places, and look at their different perspectives of why, what the voices of, but what the reasoning is of backing the numbers. Because it could be they
Okay.
can open your eyes as well to
Let,
different things.
right. I submit to everything you said. Those are true variables. Okay, so there's no problem with that, but that's just chitter chatter, and no disrespect to you. But I mean, then we could talk about this and that and tweak it and talk about this and that, all these different angles. But the basic average is 14 to 21 days, and it can go longer, of course. And some of the old people even go 2 and 3 months that are in serious critical care. But if you take 14 to 21 days as a basic truth, not absolute, before all those people though end up in one or two categories. They end up in the dead category or the totally recovered. All of them. Everybody that has the disease either ends up in totally recovered or dead. And like you said, they can re-get it again. However, what we've been doing and what the governments and the media has been doing, they've been taking the dead people category and they've been dividing that by the people that have the disease, which is a deception. That is not the true mortality rate. Hello, isn't it not? Take the dead people and divide it by the totally recovered to understand the true mortality rate. And I have energy. You can hear that. No energy towards you, gentlemen. But the fact, you have to take the dead people and divide it by the totally recovered. Then you can see real numbers. And we know the numbers. None of us fully trust them. Even our own government, we don't think the United States is all on the up and up with everything. And we don't have all the details. But we need, do we not, to take the numbers, even the bogus Chinese numbers, divide the dead by the totally recovered. And then you'll see astronomical numbers as opposed to the 2%, the 6%. Some of it is astronomically high. Tell me I'm wrong. Don't we truly take the dead people and divide it by the recovered to understand an honest mortality rate, even though the numbers are bogus? Isn't that the way we really need to be looking at this thing? Question mark.
I don't know if I'm focused so much on the mortality rate right now as I am the spread of the disease. The fact that it's spreading so fast basically means everyone's going to get sick for 2 weeks. Depending on your conditions, you might need a ventilator or hospital beds. I've read horrifying individual stories on Twitter of people who were 20 years old or 40 years old. They were young, they were healthy. They're in a coma now. They're on a ventilator now. I read a horrible story about what being on a ventilator is like. So that was scary. So I agree that China numbers aren't very good. I'm horrified that in Iran, they're building graves so big we can see them from space. I know that's bad. Mainly my whole thing is, okay, we're going to stay home. Like, we're going to stay home. We're going to eat the food we have here. That's me. That's my people. We're only a couple people. But everybody else needs to stay home. So if it's a mortality rate, if it's better numbers, I don't know. I mean, it's that what's the penalty for being too scared from this disease? Okay, if I'm too scared from this disease, I have a couple $100 worth of extra food I bought. I have some time that I wasted staying home reading a book instead of doing something useful. I'm not progressing my career. There's a lot of opportunity cost lost here. But as opposed to going outside, getting sick, going to a bar, getting sick, not having food, getting sick. I mean, and even if I live through the disease, then the mortality rate is wrong. Or if I die from the disease, even worse, we're still back at staying home and trying to flatten this curve.
But the thing is, though, if individually it doesn't sound like a huge thing to just kind of cut down a little bit, but if the nation goes into panic mode, and it was actually I think RT I was watching yesterday, they gave a great example of one specific industry where and it just had the ripples of everything collapsing along the way. If everyone goes into panic mode, we stop doing X, Y, and Z. It's not just supply chains that are screwed. There's a lot of businesses that could go down, and that the ripple effect, I think, can have a really big economic impact. And even though there wasn't any there wasn't any disease. I don't know, during the Great Depression, obviously there was just over war and whatever, but that had enough of an impact on people's lives and people's health. Suicide rates went up, and you're probably like, if so many things start to fall and start to crumble in the rest of society, then I think that we run the risk of food chains and other supply chains collapsing, which will cause more issues than if we manage this in a more, I don't know, differently way.
Live, like I said, right outside of Sioux City, Iowa. They announced this last weekend, Saturday night, the governor came out, and the whole state of Iowa, no schools, kindergarten through 12th grade, no universities. They're all shut down. South Dakota did the same thing here 4 or 5 days ago. No schools anywhere in the whole state. They also shut down all Catholic masses throughout the state in South Dakota. So the whole economy in our area is just cranking down, cranking down, cranking down. All the Walmarts I saw nationwide are now closing, I think, at 10 or 11 o'clock. So what you're talking about is happening. And it's I'm hunkering down myself. The problem that I'm dealing with living inside of Bill's little bubble, my little world, is I'm 56 and I have a precondition of I have emphysema and OCPD. So I'm vulnerable. So I have to pretty much be prepared. But it's affecting my business. As you can see my logo when I called in, I have a tree service business and I've done very well, very blessed. But the phone ain't ringing. If the phone ain't ringing, that means people aren't wanting trees done because it is not a priority unless it were to fall and hit their house or their car maybe. Other than that, there won't be many calls other than emergency. And I have employees and trucks and chippers, and I got a business going. But the business really is snail pace right now, and I don't foresee it in the foreseeable near future getting any better, but probably getting worse. And I've prepared, so I can make it for a while. But like you guys are alluding to and talking about, what's the ripple effect? We know the stock market crashed hard today. Bitcoin, of course, down in the tank, gold, silver, oil, all of it. And the pre-markets are already saying they're going to be down for tomorrow. And I understand we're on a trajectory that is worse and steeper and a faster rate than the Great Depression of 1929.
I think this is the ultimate rainy day. They always tell you have something set aside, all that. Like, what if this went wrong? Well, what if that went wrong? Well, I mean, the list you just gave us there, because everyone's like, oh, Bitcoin's not a safe haven. Well, gold went down today too, guys. I don't think that there's any safe haven in a real market crash, and the market is crashing because of panic, and the panic is because of what you said. There aren't going to be any customers. No one's going to want anything done. No one's going to go to restaurants. No one's going to go shopping. Like, think about your options now. I go outside. I go to my little discount shop. I find a new coat that I want. I get a disease that fucking kills me and my whole family. Like, fuck that. I'm not going anywhere, any shops, right? No, I'm not going to any restaurants. I'm not going to any, as all these. I love these places. I feel bad. I'm putting that out of business. I'm the customer that's not going to show. I used to be regular. I'm not a regular anymore. But we need a holiday, and that's where we need this top-down leadership. There's this thing that happened. We were talking about the Great Depression, and I think we're going to talk about it a lot more now. But Calvin Coolidge couldn't do it. Calvin Coolidge was a businessman. He was cool Cal, and he could not, for the life of him, he could not add money into the economy the way that FDR could. And FDR didn't want to do it either. And he was against his principles. We're going to give people to, everyone's always, you give them money to dig up a hole, put some money in the hole, pay them to dig up the money in the hole. Like, it's stupid, right? But that worked, right? And that's, as horrifying as it is, and as I'm against it, all the libertarians in the crowd are against, everybody's mad, but we need a bailout for normal people. My little business here doing shows, it's not going to fly. Going on tour, doing interviews, that's not going to fly. Your tree business is in trouble. All the restaurants are in trouble. And it's not their fault. They're not that they're bad businessmen or they didn't have a good plan or whatever. No one can plan for this. No one can survive this. And the choice is either going to be bail them out like we did the auto industry, save all these people, or do nothing and let them all wreck. And the problem is, like, psychologically, him and his people, they can't do anything. They can't break through that. I mean, is that, what do you think? What do you think, caller? Sorry.
I think that I'm going to have to evolve, and I'm going to have to kick in the ingenuity switch, and be creative and figure out other ways. I'm blessed, like I said. I've been preparing for a long time. I've been, I'm in a location that is I have an acreage. I'm by myself. I mean, my wife, but I'm gearing up for the possibility of a non-quick recovery, meaning a possibility of the Great Depression making that thing look like it was small, possibly. But that's what preparedness is. That's what crypto is all about, is covering ourselves. And I think it will rebound, but it's going to take a long time before things get back to normalcy. And I think that's when, some of our investments will start paying dividends. But I mean, I have, land, and I have seeds, and I have, I bought chickens the other day, of course, the typical thing, go to the store, stock up, that's been done. But I'm not sure of the future.
Well, you could try and help things along by doing. Hopefully, everyone can see this, but it's the it's the coronavirus challenge, and this lady is
exactly.
She's licking a toilet seat.
Oh no!
Of an airplane. Ladies and gentlemen, planet Earth.
That's
Ta-da!
Morse code for I need attention. Please watch me.
Oh, it's scary that's still going on, even if she's joking or something. I mean, even if I hope it's ironic and it's like, oh, that was a troll and I was messing with you, and I don't know. There's also this idea that the young people are invulnerable to this, and I've seen all kinds of other reports to the contrary, and that 20-year-olds are getting down with this and they're spreading it out, but
at the moment, so worldmeters.info/coronavirus, which is the one I think Ben also uses this one that we talked about on Friday. But according to this, there's 0 deaths, and I'm quite interested because I've got a 9-month-old kid. But there's 0 deaths at the moment with 0 to 9 years old. I don't know how accurate that number is, but surely we would have known about it by now if it was a, dare I say it, a baby, baby mortality, for example, was bad. So I think there are, from what we can see of the numbers and the lack of narrative around certain things, I think, that maybe is trustworthy. But certainly from up to 10 to 39 is a 0.2% death rate. And as we've discussed, that's already such a pinch of salt number, because there could be so many more people at home that never bothered going in to get checked. I mean, I have to be literally dragged to the hospital. I'm like classic stereotypical dude, like dying before I get checked out, and there's probably lots of other people like that, so it's all crazy.
I'm concerned about my father, who's 81 years old. He had open heart surgery a couple of years ago, and he has emphysema CPD. And I love my dad, and I don't want him to have to encounter what might be coming his way. And so there's going to be a lot of roller coasters for all of us.
There really is, and it's horrible because you feel like you can see it coming. We have all this information, we have all this knowledge, we know all these things, but we can't help anything. Like I can't stop anything, and I'm afraid of what the world's going to look like. Let's say, in a few years, if there aren't any old people. It seems like a stupid, it's a sci-fi thing or whatever, or some kind of fantasy or some kind. But what if there aren't, and they just aren't around? I mean, there's a lot of knowledge there that we're losing. There's a lot of stories we're losing. There's a lot of just people, just people, and a lot of sad people. A ripple effect that have lost their loved ones and things. And again, nothing we can do. So it's very powerless feeling.
Not to mention the moral fiber, the integrity, the genuineness, the sincerity, a lot of things that youth don't carry with them. We've all been young, and we're maturing as time goes by, but it's pure, utter arrogance that we seem to carry in generality in our youth, and infallibility, but in reality, we all look to be seasoned human beings as time goes on, and the qualities in the human being generally develop with time, for those that are on the growth wave, that is, anyway.
I think so. I think that's a good note, man. And thanks so much for the call.
Thanks for doing your show, guys. I appreciate you, and I think Bitcoin's going to go up like a rocket. Still, it's just a timing thing. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks so much, man. Give us a call anytime. Yeah, I hope the Bitcoin comes back too. It's been a rough time for Bitcoin too, but it's also rough for gold, the stock market, pretty much anything that you can invest in. It's not doing so well. So
I mean, think about the impact of, like, so pensions, for example, as well. I mean, like, so many pensions are invested in, especially if they were heavily weighted into stocks and not a bit of cash. There's the ripples really will go far, and yeah, let's just hope it does. The situation eases up a bit, or some miracle cure.
A miracle cure. I don't think that's coming, but if we can just wait long enough, there will be a vaccine. It's going to take a year to a year and a half, maybe 2 years, but going to have to wait for the vaccine. But if you'd like, you can call now and join us live on the show. Call now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. I'll just have to add you on Skype, so just go ahead and add me, or you can even call, I think, without adding me.
So I was talking to my friend from South Korea yesterday, and so a little update from his side, and it's really interesting to hear his perspective, on the front lines compared to what we hear over in the UK with and probably the US with the crazy media. And one of the things that was quite sobering around the time of the whole North Korea is going to nuke everybody thing was that I was chatting to him and he was like, no one gives a crap, man. It's basically inflated by Western media. We get on with our lives. Some people freak out every now and then, but it's not a big thing. But he was saying it seems like the way South. I haven't heard much on the news about how they're handling it, but they're definitely going for a hardcore approach of disinfecting everything and keeping people inside via fines, etc. So it does sound like they've come down quite hard, and their numbers are they're not as hardcore as they could be by the sounds of it. So whether that's a side effect or whether they've just got great healthcare, lots of ventilators, I don't know.
Well, they say in South Korea and in China they were both not only able to flatten the curve, but to go even farther and to smash the curve. That they went point to point. Who'd you get it from? Who'd you get it from? You're going to a fever clinic. They test you at the fever clinic. If you've got a fever, you go into the big warehousey thing. You lay in the bed. They take care of you. If you need a ventilator, I guess they have ventilators. But basically, the sick all stay in one place because what they figured out is their main problem was family transmission. We talk about community transmission. They were having a problem with family transmission. Kid goes out, comes home, spreads it to his whole family, right? This wipes them out. So they were going to stop that. They did stop that. They were successful, but they took what seems to us as draconian steps and what would seem to us as a large government reaction. And gosh, it's gotten really bad recently. And again, I'm all like big Mr. Freedom and all these things, and I'm not a libertarian, but I'm usually with you guys and all these things. We need the military. Okay, we need the military to take over. Like here it is. I'm calling for martial law.
Martial law.
That's how bad it's getting. I believe that the only thing, and again, I'm 2 weeks ahead on this. So in 2 weeks, it'll happen either way. But if we did it now, we'd still have some healthy people. So we'd have a better chance.
In fairness, Tom, when I was hanging out with you, like what, 2-3 weeks ago, you were itching to get to Costco, and you did prophesize the Costco mad rush.
Oh, I could feel it when I was there last time. I could feel like this deja vu of like seeing the shelves and then seeing them empty and then seeing them empty, like now. And I mean, there's this, that's where we're going. That's where we're going with this. So if we get ahead of it, we can win. If we stay behind it, we're definitely going to lose. It's going to get worse. Let's see.
Just one thing to think about. So just going to run something by you. So one of the things that we don't look at on here, we've got the, like, by the way, I've got the World Meters coronavirus thing on. So maybe if you can go to that, Tom, go to worldometers.info/.
I'm trying to find this one great article I read recently where it showed all the little like balls bouncing off of people, like a simulation of what
how it spread.
how it spreads, but I can't find it. I'll find this thing that you have. Let's see what's that.
So, I mean, looking at the numbers here that they've obviously provided, so take it with a pinch of salt. But China's got 3,000 total of 3,213 deaths, and I'm not putting these as just small numbers or whatever. I mean, any death's bad, but when you think about China's population overall, it's extremely densely populated. There's a population of 1.6 billion or something, and it seems like it had the longest run in China with the least amount of activity going to stop it. So surely, if 3,213 deaths is the amount that we're currently on, and China took a very, very, very long time to react, way longer than we would have done equivalently. Surely that's a kind of not a good sign, but it's a sign that it's not as bad as we may think.
I don't know. I think from a scientific perspective here, just glancing at these results and assuming the source, I'm afraid you have to completely throw out the China numbers. I don't think that we can take that as a factual at all. It's just gone. If we look at the Italy numbers, which we assume are more factual, but still probably underreported on the total cases because they're not testing everyone. A lot of these countries don't have enough cases. The problem here is the total deaths. It's too big, 2,000, and the total new cases is too big. The real chart that we need here, and maybe they'll have one here, is we need to see how fast it's doubling. So here's Italy, total cases in Italy. It's giving us that S curve, right? This is exponential growth. Going back to what we were talking about this morning, learning our basic math, exponential growth is the green one. It's the curve. Red is linear. That's a good growth for us. Blue is geometric. Not a great growth for us, but anything is better than exponential. So exponential growth, Italy, exponential curve. Let's look at some of the other ones. We got China. Where's USA on here? Because basically they're saying today that the USA numbers are starting to follow the Italy numbers. So yeah, we can see there exponential. And then what we hope to see, okay, so this is flattening the curve. This is an S curve. It's so funny. Usually we're rooting for this, right? Usually we're like, oh, I want my website to go viral. I want Bitcoin to go viral. I want the S curve. This is a flip for us. So we're on the other side. We want this flattening. I mean, we're doomed anyway. We've got the virus. The virus is the virus. But this little up here, if they had more of those, China would be doomed. This flattening is what we want. And we see Italy here and USA. Actually, they look the same. Oh, God. So they look exactly the same, and there is no flattening. So as far as like the deaths and everything, I mean, there's the other chart, and I don't know if they have it here, but it's mortality rate by age group. And that's the one that everyone's really focusing on because they all think that they're impervious or they all think they're going to be fine.
If you go scroll up, and it's one of the bit further up the top. It's one of the subheadings, I think. Just if you scroll up to the
active cases. So I had one that said
the age, sex, and existing conditions.
Here's the mortality rate, but
but I think it goes into that detail. I think
in active cases.
No, if you go right up to the top, and there was like a few green links, bit lower.
Age.
Up again. Sorry, I got the wrong place. Active cases. No. I got up. There.
That's the highest of those.
Age.
Yeah, age.
There's the beans.
All right, let's see. Age. Here we go. So 0 to 9 years old, like Dan said, no fatalities. 80 years old, 21% death rates in confirmed cases, 14% in all cases. That's interesting. They have a two sections here, one for confirmed, one for all. Like the guy was saying, they don't. If you die, but you didn't die from it, I don't know how could you be in this, but yeah. So it gets 40 years old, 0.4%. So that's pretty good. 1.3 for 50, 3.6 for 60, 8.0 for 70, and then a crushing 14.8 for 80. So, but this is the death roll. This is the death tolls, and the main thing I really focused on would be more like just the growth. I mean, to me, it just matters that all these growth graphs are no good. and that everyone's going to get it. So, yeah, these growth graphs are all no good. We need to stay home. And then, really, if you stay home long enough, you're going to run out of food and water. And then you're probably going to need the military to deliver you food. That's really where we're going, is that if you think about all these people that don't have food, they're going to go out, they're going to infect each other, they're going to overwhelm the hospitals, or we could have food delivered by the military. We spent all this money on them. Why don't we use them? This is the point where you get to the end of the board game and you're like, oh, I had this card that did that, and I had that card that did this, and I saved them for later. This is later. This is the rain. Like Forrest is laughing. He says MREs. I'm absolutely talking about MREs. Yes. And as far as like all the other creepy things that we've ever talked about the military, all the bad things we've ever said about continuity of government and so on and so forth, well, this is your time to shine. All you doomsday planners, because they have I mean, I don't know if they have, I'm sure they have virus plans. They have nuclear war plans. They have virus plans. They have earthquake plans. These are the people with the plans. And I don't think Trump has a plan. We don't have a central control. I mean, look at the haphazard closing of businesses. Oh, some restaurants closed, but other restaurants didn't. You have to close them. People have to stay home. This whole ridiculous, and it's horrible to say, you know, a couple days ago they had his test and he came out negative. I think he would have taken it more seriously if he knew what it was like.
I think if he tested positive, there's no way that they would have even said it. They would have even admitted it anyway. You know,
eventually they have to. I mean, eventually he physically can't go on TV and do the conversation and stuff, and that's what they were implying with the internet. The internet was always got it all right because he matched up with 2 or 3 people. I mean, it was like.
Yeah, but yesterday he did after his address. Usually he hangs around and lots of back patting and stuff and telling everyone how good they are and reciprocated back patting. But this time he disappeared straight off. I don't know if you noticed, and then Pence took over. I don't know, and he seems like he could have the sniffles.
Well, I saw a thing saying today that the Republicans are now in some ways at fault for this, perhaps, if you think we'd be better off with a President Pence. If they had taken action during the impeachment, I know it was impossible and they couldn't look at the evidence and they couldn't think about the trial and everything, but if Donald Trump had been removed and Mike Pence comes along a coronavirus, do you think Mike Pence says what Donald Trump says? Do you think he goes out there on TV and says it's no big deal and everyone should go back to work and this is a foreign virus and blah, 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 blah? I don't know. I mean, I don't even like Pence, but we just need someone competent, someone that, and again, it's not even a political thing. It's a competence thing. If someone comes to you and they bring you the information and they say, this is what's happening to our people, these are our options. And like, no one likes to stay home. And no one really likes to stay home when you're forced to. I mean, I stay home most of the time anyway. And it's only recently, now that I'm like, forcing myself, I'm self-quarantining or whatever, that it starts to grate on you. And yes, if there was military people outside, if they'd set up some, barricades and stuff, it would be much harder and much more difficult to stay home and much more frustrating. But this is one of those, you do the difficult thing, you're going to pull the Band-Aid off. Like we're going to feel better when this is done, but we're going to have to get through the hard part. Or we could pretend there's no hard part. We could do nothing, and we could be sitting here in a year and a half saying, it will be one of those generationalist things where we're like, oh, remember the old generation and remember the wisdom, and do you guys really like 70s music? And we're going to go over one of those science fiction humps, and it's already bad enough. I mean, I really want to talk about it. I haven't been able to get through William Gibson's new book because I think it's too real. And part of the book, and part of it is I need to maybe reread or read a synopsis of the previous book or something to connect the two together. But part of it is about these time travel people that can go to your society and they can create what's called a stub, right? And it doesn't sound so great to be living in a stub, does it? But a stub would be created when you go back and you change something. Like, let's say that in the normal main timeline, Hillary defeats Trump, right? She's a politician. She's 30 years preparation, all these things. He's a reality show star. it's a 1 in 100 chance he beats her, right? Well, in all the other ones, it comes down 99, right? 99 to 100 chance he beats her. So these stubs, they're going back and creating these false realities, these tests, these temporary realities. Well, boy, does it feel like we're in a stub, because they have this one guy in the book, I think is called Vespian or something like that. And he likes to create negative stubs. He likes to create evil stubs. Bad things happen. He likes to study. It's like it's a game. He's just studying people. And so he's just studying people in this stub, and things keep getting worse for the people in the stub. And that's us, right? We're the people in this stub. So no, I'm not crazy about this stub that we're in that keeps getting worse.
So what with the solution of because I'm not sold on the mass not incarceration, but the mass isolation. I mean, we're self-isolating with my family.
Yeah.
From your perspective, like, the thing that worries me is, or that I think is a concern, is that if we're saying just 2 weeks, for example, 2 weeks, or what, even 3 weeks, that's incubation period and whatever of 2 weeks. So 3 weeks, everyone self-isolates, and then we just all go about our business again. The likelihood of people not mingling within those 3 weeks and it not spreading anyway, and then I don't know. I think that when everyone just returns back in one big swoosh, it's got the chance to just proliferate really, really fast again.
Well, sadly, this is another, and again, this is how totalitarianism starts, and we tiptoed down this road. But yeah, they're saying 4 weeks, and they're saying 8 weeks, and they think that we're going to be playing basketball by the fall and all those kind of things. But that's why, on the other end of this, I'm looking for the support of the most organized group in the country, the most well-funded group in the country, the thing that takes all our money. I'm looking for them to step up and to supply these people when they run out of food, so that they can continue staying home. I don't know that we're going back to work in 1 month or 2 months. I think if you looked at the graph, we had a chart the other day where we talked about the coronavirus, and we did a whole show, and everybody just kind of put their information up there. And the two scenarios that I saw to survive the coronavirus is, number one, don't get sick. Don't get sick is the hardest scenario by which to survive the coronavirus. This requires staying home. It requires changing your life, not going to concerts, not going to social events, not going to bars, not going to restaurants, no more casinos, no more fun, right? For 1.5 to 2 years. Then you get the vaccine. Presumably the vaccine works. Meanwhile, the coronavirus is mutating. There's other versions. There's going to be other vaccines. This fight's going to continue, right? This is a lifetime fight where we're saying, oh, there's Corona, Corona 2020. Then there was Corona 2024, Corona 23, and there's all these different versions. And which one did you get? I got the red one, and all these kind of things. So that's number one. That's the don't get sick. And that also, immune boosters, eating well, having food in the house, keeping mentally sane, right? Because you're essentially on, solitary confinement practically. So that's our best case scenario. Our scenario number 2 was get sick. So if you get sick, you hope that you live. You hope that they have a hospital bed for you. You hope they have a ventilator. You hope you're not in one of these restricted groups already, the immune compromised, the elderly, so on and so forth. And that you live through that. You develop some kind of antibodies to this thing. At least you have the antibodies to coronavirus 1. There's going to be multiple versions down the line, and you're going to get sick again, and so on and so forth. And that one might kill you, and the next one might kill you, and whatever. And we live in the world of the virus now. So those are the 2 victory scenarios. And it turns out that victory scenario 1, staying home, also has the benefit of not getting other people sick. And that's, all the socialist things, all the communist things, all the libertarian things, all the, individualism versus cultures, all those things. It's all up now, because you all have to decide, whether it's worth staying home, whether it's worth going to some club, getting 10 other people sick, whether those people deserve to be sick or not, whether those people have pre-existing conditions and they deserve to die, or whether they had a good life, or whatever you want to do. I mean, it's all, we're well into that. And I agree with in the chat, Byzantine is saying, he who recovers first wins. Have you hugged a COVIDer today? And there was a point where I was kind of hoping, I was like, well, what if I could get this thing early? I could get into the hospitals before they're full. I'll get recovered before everyone else. I'll live. I'll take advantage of this travel situation. I'll be the tourist at the empty buildings taking pictures. I'll be happy, right? No. It turns there's too many random dice throws in this thing that result in you dying. Even if you're 20 years old, even if you're 40 years old, there's too many random dice rolls. And then now they put in these other things I was hearing recently. They're saying, well, if you have pre-existing conditions, and that also means being overweight. And most of America is overweight or even obese, if we want to go down the words. So that's bad. So you need to stop doing that. They were talking earlier in the chat about how great it was that they're going to have guns and so forth. Instead of have guns, you should have some kind of physical fitness, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to be great. Oh, I got a gun. Rah, rah. No, you need physical fitness to survive this thing. I always suggest people learn a martial art or Aikido that you can carry with you at all times and have that confidence and that ability to flip people or fight them as opposed to a gun. And guns are okay too. It's a tool for what it's used for. I'm not totally coming out, but there are people going to gun stores the same way that they're going to toilet paper stores. Like there's this stocking up effect of guns. And
there was a guy who stocked up on 17,000 sanitizers as well in the US. He went literally from store to store. So it's like there's little pockets of things that suddenly someone's going, this is really useful. I'm going to need this. And then they're just going.
This story is one of the hardest. Now, we're going to, again, get into trouble with the audience here. But I think one of the reasons that this is a good audience and this is a good show is that we're willing to get into trouble with you. We're willing to question the things you believe, and even you can call me an idiot or whatever, but think about it a few days later, like the pragmatism, the things we're talking about. These guys, first, there's one way of profiteering. So I remember reading about the coronavirus and starting to freak out and starting to look for things online, and it was pretty much already closed up. But, you could have bought a box full of sanitizer. You could have had it shipped from some faraway place, and then you have a brand new box of it, and then you're distributing it, right? And maybe you're double pricing or triple pricing, right? So you're making some extra money, but at least it's bulk, right? You bought a bulk item from someplace, you're distributing it in smaller quantities, so you're adding value by splitting it up into smaller quantities. What these guys did, and again, they're just low tech. Maybe the high tech version doesn't offend me because they bought a box from somewhere, but these guys go around to every shop in their store and start cleaning out the hand sanitizers. So this is basically like, grandma goes to the store. She can't buy a $3 hand sanitizer because they're all gone. She gets sick and dies. It's these guys' fault. Maybe she went to 3 stores in her area. Well, they got there first and they had a U-Haul and they bought everything in their area. So essentially, their attempt to hoard and to profit and to be capitalist also kind of makes them mass murderers from exposing all of these people to the disease that wouldn't have been exposed. Now, that's not to say that someone didn't show up right behind them and buy a handful of them, or that they didn't sell out the next day. Where the distribution is slightly different. But this kind of going around and hoarding and depriving other people of it, to me seems different than the buying the box and selling the box. What do you think, Dan?
I think if you see any hoarders, just follow them home and then keep on checking up on them until the apocalypse happens, and then you make a judgment whether they're still with us or not. And if not, then you go and help yourself to some sanitizer.
Well, there's a lot of other places to stock up. A lot of other people have a lot of things, and again, that's where it goes.
But don't stalk people from the supermarket. Just FYI, it's not a good thing, and I haven't done it yet. So.
Well, that is where we're heading with this. If you're way too greedy, if you're way too full, you have too much stuff, and you're not strong enough, you haven't practiced your martial arts, you're not ready to defend it, and even at a certain point, if there's a rush of people, you can't defend against anything. But yeah, it's pretty bad. They're saying in the chat that all the fake meat was left, all the real meat was gone. It's a big discrimination there. I think there's protein in that fake meat too. I think people are. It's another sign of like people not really thinking this through. Where it might not taste the greatest, but we're already talking about MREs. We were already opening up the discussion at having your food delivered by box by the military so that you can stay home, so that you can maintain this quarantine. Because this is our new society. This is our new world. So,
I don't know. I think it just seems like it's. I don't know, man. Like I know that we shouldn't compare the numbers, but the numbers for the amount of people in the UK, for example, that died from flu in the current 2019 to 2020 season, I think stands just over 6,000, which yeah, obviously, that's over a long period of time. But when you think about it, why aren't we losing our shit over tuberculosis killing 5,000 people a day or whatever? If it's a case of we can, just pump loads of money in and buy malaria nets and eradicate malaria, and that kills way more people, and it even affects, people from rich countries that go to where malaria is prevalent or whatever. Why the hell, if they care so much, aren't they like, I don't know, putting the entire place in a malaria? Well, obviously not the entire place in a malaria net, but I don't know. It just seems the proportion of freak out is so much higher about this now. Maybe the media recently, or in the last over the last 20 years, has just become so hyper. Every hyperbole everywhere. It's just everything's just the extreme version of it. It's not, you don't get a reasonable perspective from someone being interviewed. You get the crazy person who's like going Armageddon. So I don't know. I think that the media plays a lot of part, and also my girlfriend was saying earlier that she was looking at the stats of the number of obviously it's a different scenario, but because for social media is a lot more prevalent now, but the proportionately the number of stats to users, etc. For swine flu, which killed 500,000 in the end, was nothing compared to what the attention this is getting. So it does seem, dare I say it, but Shakespeareing it, maybe a little much ado about nothing. And I'm not saying that nothing is not, because obviously people have died and it's very bad. But when you think about the other stuff that's happening, surely there's, I don't know, surely there's just a bit more we could be doing in other areas if we're that worried about, death counts.
I think it's about the spread. I think that this thing, the way that it spreads is different than the other things. And when we talk about other diseases, they don't live for 3 days on substances. So this thing lives for 3 days on substances. So if you're out in the world, you touch something that someone sneezed on or they coughed on or something like that, that you're going to pick it up, get it on your face, it goes into your eyes, nose, or mouth, and then you're sick. Yeah. So I think that the way that this spreads, it's a little like Jurassic Park. Like they've invented a brand new disease. And it's not even a brand new disease. This is COVID-19, right? There were 18 other COVIDs that are also probably really awesome, but not as awesome as this one. And it's another one where to us and to the normal people, they're like, this is just like the flu and this is just like the thing. And it's like it's overreacting. There's these scientist guys and they're out there and they're like, holy shit, this is the most amazing disease I've ever seen. Like they keep showing us those pictures of it. Let me see if I can get a picture of COVID-19. It's the coronavirus, right? That means crown, corona. And that's what all these little things are, is these are the crowns. This is the spiky things. This is the way that the virus looks. And I keep thinking of these spiky balls, and I keep thinking of them as like the world's greatest virus. Like these are these incredible spiky balls, and these are the things we have to beat. These are the enemy. Everyone's looking around. They're like, the enemy is socialist, the enemy is communist, the enemy is Trump, whatever. No. This, like the guy saying in chat, this beautiful virus is the enemy. And it's better than anything we've seen before. Like this is the flu. It just doesn't spread this good. It doesn't kill this good. It's just not as good. And it's the same kind of thing. Like it's funny to be in this again of the whole, you're not the real Jesus and you're John the Baptist and you're not the Messiah. You're like a very good Messiah. You're like a very good dude, but you're not the Jesus. This thing is the Jesus. This thing is the thing. This is the thing that's going to, kill us all. This is the thing that's going to, do whatever. And again, if we overreact and we go home and we sit at home for a couple of weeks and we eat some MREs, so it goes.
I know it's like it reminds me of I do kind of like I agree, I totally agree with you there. I do think everyone's losing their minds a bit, but I do think at the same time if you just practice slightly, but if you practice better health, then it's ultimately the greater good. And it reminds me of that cartoon where it's got like there's a presentation or whatever, and like on the wall is like, I don't know, like reduce carbon emissions, cleaner air, stuff like that. And then someone's going, what if Greta's wrong and we're doing this all for nothing?
I know, we're cleaning up the environment for nothing. We're like saving the environment for
it's
nothing.
The same like principle is, well, what one thing this has taught us, and I think it's actually although it's terrible the amount of life we've lost, is that like we need to have better processes and procedures around this, that when it happens in future there needs to be more unity, more co-working. Hopefully this will be the spurn of some really good open source medical research projects, but at least it's kind of at least it doesn't seem to me, I'm looking on the positive side, but it doesn't seem to me as bad as something that we could have been hit with that really does screw everyone over. And there's still a lot of medical professionals.
I think this is the worst thing we've ever been hit with, man. I don't think there's a, oh, here we go. Did I find the simulator? Ah, yes. Oh, fantastic. I found the simulator. We're set.
I watched a documentary yesterday on, if I can find it, I'll post it in the thing, but it's a Cambridge University documentary. It's only a short one, 20 minutes, and it was actually about the Spanish flu, and it was 2 years ago. And the thing that really made my eyes open even more, and more open to the idea of not doing nothing but delaying the cause, was that, and bearing in mind this documentary was 2 years ago, and one of the researchers, she said towards the end, she said basically, we're going to have a pandemic in the future, which we're just not going to be able to stop. So what you need to do is be more proactive in delaying it and making sure that we can handle the loads that we do have at the time. And that kind of made me think, well, actually, that's an opinion about this delay theory that wasn't being made in pandemonium panic, mode. So I think that that kind of gave me a bit of a boost in my belief that it seems like delaying it could work out well.
All right, so we have an update from the chat. I was wrong on the 19. 19 is the year that the first case was documented. So my mistake on the COVID. But I do believe, let me check, that is COVID, it's a class of virus or a type of virus? Are there other COVID
Yeah,
things?
so coronaviruses, there's different types of them. I don't think there's not 19. I don't know, maybe it is, no, but maybe it just happens to be a coincidence. But no, there are more coronaviruses.
All right, so I'm generally right, but I was wrong on the numbers. So I want to admit that, be clear with that. I did find the article. It's from the Washington Post. So we see here the orange dot is a sick person. So the sick person goes on and infects other people. And our population of 5 people, everyone caught it, right? Boom, done. So in real life, a recovery person neither transmits or becomes sick again. So we can see here, everyone has received the disease, so they do not become sick again the second time. Let's scroll down here. We're getting into some bigger things. Maybe we'll get smaller. No. So this is over time. This is the change over time. We can see the people, they're recovering, they're spreading around. They're spreading the virus. And as you can see, pretty much everyone, all our little dots are turning orange. They're starting to turn pink. They're recovering. So everyone got the virus. Now let's see. This was a temporary quarantine at Hubei. But as you can see here, they opened and reopened the quarantine, right? So the quarantine's open. It spreads out into the normal population. All of our blue balls are turning orange. Everyone is infected again, right?
Yeah.
So now let's see what we've got. This is called social distancing. So the dots that are frozen are staying home, so they're less likely to get infected. So if we look at the change over time, we can see that it's a longer, slower change than it was if we're all out and about. And this isn't about this disease or that disease, the flu. Any disease would work in this model. So staying home slows the growth of the disease, allows the hospitals. Now here's even more people staying home. So like if just some people stay home and other people go out to the stores, it still spreads. But look, if everybody stays home, like it hardly spreads at all. Like this is it. This is this is it. This is what we have left. And there's you can be in denial of this. You can say it's not happening and it's going to be less or whatever. But
That's
pretty sure this is it.
for when if it comes back. So if it's a non-immune thing, what you do 2 months of isolation, but as soon as someone gets it, the wider population goes back, and the rat race begins again, it's just going to go right.
Yeah, well, but it can't. Well, the theory is that if you get sick with the virus, you develop antibodies to the virus. So we do have these people that are recovered in our simulation. They're not making more people sick.
Yeah.
So eventually, like if we let this thing run long enough, it doesn't. Unfortunately or fortunately, it doesn't have a dead people option. It only has recovered, healthy and sick. But eventually, these people are all going to be pink. They're all going to be recovered. And that's what they're talking about, that herd immunity, where the virus gets on one guy and maybe it's on him for a week, but it can't spread because he's immune. And all the people he comes in contact are immune, so the virus dies off unsuccessfully, right? The virus does not spread, doesn't get to, eat any humans. So...
I think there's some talk about it being bioengineered, but I really don't think that's the case. There's lots of reports that have come out and immediately been debunked by other scientists. So I don't think it's I definitely don't think it's man-made. It's still really funny that the Umbrella Corp logo from Resident Evil is exactly the same as like the Wuhan biomedical facility. But these are just coincidences, and you can read into all sorts of stuff where there's coincidences and extrapolate out crazy things that you want. But
they say there's a new Resident Evil game coming out in like a week or something.
Oh, is there now?
Yeah, so
we know why this virus came out.
Well-timed marketing, so you can stay home and play the game.
Yeah, like April, like that. Oh, but that'd be terrible. They're like April Fools, everyone. Like when the world's like completely chaos, they're like, "Oh, you ready for the new Resident Evil?"
Very ready. They're talking in the chat about chicken pox infection parties, and that's actually the way to do it when you have a virus that's weaker and doesn't result in so much death. The problem with this virus is we just don't know enough about it, so it's always that dice roll, where everyone's like, oh, 20-year-olds are fine, except for that guy. And if you had that guy at your chickenpox party and he gets sick and died, you'd feel pretty bad about having a chickenpox party. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah, I'm on the side of, and this is really polarizing, but I'm generally a herd immunity dude. I believe in that, as it were. I'm very, very sort of long time Skeptics Guide to the Universe and Skeptics sort of podcast listener, and I like the debunking of certain crazy things. So I totally believe in vaccination, and actually my girlfriend relies on it. She's got an autoimmune disease called Addison's, which is life-threatening autoimmune, and so she relies on herd immunity. But I don't know. It seems like the getting a vaccine for this. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think there's a vaccine for the other COVIDs that are out. It's just something you kind of get over. But the worry is now that we don't have enough data to see if you do get over it. If it's not mutated so much that it does get back in. But
so it seems like in the chat they're worried about where the virus came from. And if it came from a lab or if it came from a government conspiracy. And it sounds like it has, allegedly, according to the chat, it has HIV proteins on the S protein. So that would be bad if it did. I'd be against that. But that doesn't really help us unless they also made a cure at the lab, which is unlikely. We're pretty much in the same, like... I guess, if it makes you feel better, we can be like, all right, it was a government conspiracy. But either way, somebody's grandfather is going to go, right? It doesn't really affect the situation that we're in. unless the government conspiracy also created a cure. And then we just need to track those guys down. Now, sure, if it was a government conspiracy, it was created by a man, we could get that man to work on the cure. That'd be good. But in general, I don't see how productive these are. And sure, later on we can have all that. And the same thing with we could be nitpicking Trump's response to the thing, how he did nothing, how he didn't lock down cities, how he didn't stop travel. And we're going to later. Like later on, we're going to have a hearing. We're going to have evidence. Everyone's going to be interviewed, like if there is a government, if there is a future. And the same thing for, the whole, like, if this thing came out of some evil government weapons program, I'm not saying that you guys should stop. I'm saying you guys should keep going after this till you find out the name of that program, we find out their funding, and we get their guy, and we get him down to the hearings on this. And that'll be great. But the problem is, I'm still in this virus-infected world, and unless they made a cure, which it makes no sense to make a bioweapon and then make a cure. Like, that's not our problem. Our problem is the bioweapon. So I can only imagine it seems like a computer geek thing, but the guy would be in the office and he'd be like, we ain't making no cure. We're making the bioweapon. And again, I don't know how you want to be designing bioweapons and making that your life's work and so on and so forth. I guess it's one of those, it's a dual use technology. You're like fighting the viruses, and I made a great tool to fight the viruses and they took it from me and they turned it into a virus. They mutated my work. They made it wrong.
They took our virus.
They took our virus. So
I was researching, so I was checking out well, Googling, as it were, is Snopes for the HIV proteins and the COVID thing, and the top answer that actually came up is Anchor butter contaminated with HIV? Like some of these rumors are hilarious, and there are also Cadbury's, but no, Snopes does seem to say that from what I'm looking at, it seems to say that they're actually, it's been debunked. In summary, the whole HIV, purposely put into COVID sort of myth.
Well, if we continue down the rabbit hole, basically what Martin in the chat is saying is that China created the virus to destabilize the U.S. and that they believe they could handle the virus with their quarantine and so on and so forth, but that's going to wreck the United States. So,
well, there's also another rumor. So the one that I saw earlier was that what was it that so there was the military games, and I don't believe any of this crap, by the way. I'm not a conspiracy dude, but there was the conspiracy that the Americans went to because obviously there's been a bit of brushing up with China in general, the Huawei thing and all that, and the trade wars. So the Americans went to China and they actually took the virus to Wuhan to the the World Army Olympic Games or whatever. But there's just too many of them. Like there's people take any set of circumstances and you can make up any story that sounds logical and someone's going to believe it. So I think that there would have to be a lot of evidence for me, like proper evidence of any form of conspiracy before I could believe it. And so far, no conspiracy's really proven itself to me.
I don't have a hard time believing it. I'm willing to believe the worst about people. Whatever you got, I'm willing to say, oh yeah, I'll bet we're capable of that, and as unfortunate as it is. But yeah, they're saying that it's a Soviet virus because you can clearly see it's red.
Is Soviet Russia coronavirus scared of you?
Yes, the opposite thing. But yeah, let's see what Moscow. They say there weren't any cases in Moscow. I do think there are cases in Moscow. I love that they put an ad on the this World Meter coronavirus thing. Do you suffer hot flashes associated with menopause when you're looking up your important information about the coronavirus that's going to kill all of humanity? Oh, my priorities are all out of whack.
You get me going. Are you having a hot flash now?
I'm thinking about it. Let's see. Russia. Oh, look, I love Diamond Princess is still on there.
Oh, I do love it though when ad placement is they kind of they use Google AdWords or whatever and it kind of picks up on the wrong content. Or there was a newspaper and it was like, I think it's the Daily Mail or something, and the article was about Very, terrible article. A guy who sadly killed his wife and then and then left her in a cupboard for a few days and just got on with his life. And then the bottom half of the paper was like a DFS furniture store, and it was like a cupboard sale now on. I love that. It was bad, very bad, but funny. But bad.
Let's see. I'm looking at a Chinese speech from 2005. I don't know how to take all this in right now. It sounds like he's talking about the bird flu and that it would be acceptable. I think he's generally justifying what they're doing. So, yeah, I don't know. They seem capable of it, but we're not. I don't know, we're not totally going to go in that direction. It does seem like it's spread in Russia. And again, that's the way all these horrible things work, is that in order for the Chinese to do it, they'd have to do it to their own people. So it's one of those like horrible, horrible things.
Well, it's the same with any other big pharma type myth, is that, obviously that people do work on greed and work on money and turn into evil people when money's around. But there's a lot of people that work for pharmaceutical companies, and there's a lot of their relatives. You think about the wider tree of all the people involved. And so it would have to take a lot of people making a lot of terrible decisions, and all ignoring the impacts on their family and friends. And I think this scenario is the same. And Boris is under a lot of fire, and obviously, a lot of people don't like the current approach. But ultimately, you've got to work on the data and try and worm your way through what is a misty sort of path at the moment.
Well, the chat's going all like full conspiracy theory, but I'm pretty much with you on these things. I'm not completely disagreeing with you. So yes, could the Chinese have done this? Could this all be part of a thing? Once again, even if this is true, I don't want to focus on the past. A lot of these conspiracy things, like I've watched Alex Jones, and all that kind of thing. He focuses on the bad event, and he gets all mad, and he's like, "Oh, we can't change things. It's in the past." I want to change things in the future. So if somebody did this to us, I want to get the evidence and find out, and then I want to take appropriate response. I don't know what that means. The same thing with if Russia hacked our election. If Russia hacked our election, and let's say that they tilted it towards Hillary, presumably I would be Democratic, so I would be in favor of that. So I would still want them to stop. I'd still want them to be found. Nobody messes with our election. That's just above the thing. And yeah, we've messed with other people's election. So nobody messes with ours. We have to have some kind of a democratic standard. We have to have something where we're like, oh, well, at the top, there's one that's fair, and Jimmy Carter lives there, and he doesn't have to, go and, judge his own elections and change his own things. But yes, I don't think that's acceptable. If this whole virus thing is some kind of conspiracy, I don't think that's acceptable either. And it's also the question of being found out. If they did this thing and they are found out, the world is going to respond. So if this is some kind of evil Chinese conspiracy, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to end well for them. But here's the creepy speech. If you guys want to check it out, I'll put the big words on the screen, and you can go check it out. So,
where is it? Speech by Comrade.
Yeah, they can Google it, or the guy had the things in the chat. But there's one other thing Jeremy said in the chat down there, so I'm going to go back to that, is will Trump be president longer? Am I willing to delay the election? And pretty much I'm on a yes here. I think, Dan, you've already had the English elections are delayed a full year, which as long as you schedule it and it's orderly and all sides approve, and I know I don't like this slippery slope that we'd go down, but looking at the primaries, they're allegedly, and we'll see 24 hours, a lot's happening. Allegedly, they're going to have a couple primaries tomorrow, and people are going to go down and stand in line. Then they're going to register at a desk with an older person, probably a volunteer. Then they're going to stand in a little box, and they're going to touch things that people have previously touched. So it sounds like we're having an infection festival tomorrow, and we're going to be spreading the virus, and that we work for the virus, and we're trying to get the word out. The more people vote, the more people can get the virus. And that's absurd, and that's only just a primary. That's not even the one election above all elections where everybody goes outside, stands in these little boxes, and stands close to each other. I think we've gone through a paradigm shift. To some people, we sound absurd and conspiratorial, and we've gone through the Black Mirror, and we're going to be looking back on this in 6 months and laughing. And I think that'd be great. I think that'd be great. I want to be wrong. Like let's do it. Okay, nothing happens, goes away in 6 months. Market recovers, Bitcoin recovers. We lose all our money. We have a bunch of extra canned food. Like let's do it. I want to be wrong. But I'm afraid. I mean, and a lot of these things that the prepper guys are talking about in the chat, how they prep for a lot of things, but this is the one, and all those things. I'm afraid. I think this is the one. I mean, we're trying to be reasonable and all that, and I could be wrong. But no, I think this is the, this is what we practiced for. This was what the society was about. This is all the things that we built. This is what they're for, and
nothing compared to what we could have, man. I think that maybe I'm too blasé about it, but geez, like I think imagine if it was like a proper visual like illness as well. It was like coughing and spluttering blood, and then suddenly people were falling over, and you think, what wasn't that what they before? Think about what the reports that were coming out from China when we weren't able to, there wasn't a huge amount of information coming out, was all the craziest stuff. It was like, oh, there's literally, my mum was sending me pictures of people falling in the street, like tombstoning it, just suddenly going boosh. And it seems that over time, the more and more information that's come out, they're a bit draconian about stuff, but it wasn't as bad as they initially said. And I think that there's a ripple of panic that's happening in other countries where, we probably should be seeing, if it's real pandemonium, as people are saying, we should be seeing loads of videos of this. I mean, everyone has a mobile phone, like a $10 phone now has probably takes HD, like, videos. So kind of like the fact that, I don't know, ghost sightings have gone down since cameras are involved. Like, there's a funny graph I saw of that. This kind of seems like the same to me. The more and more, like, countries it gets to, that, I mean, Italy at the moment is in obviously a bad state and panic mode, but I don't know. It just seems like it could be just a bit overplayed. I'm not a worrier though. Well, I am a worrier, but not a worrier. I worry about the Bitcoin. I don't worry about the Bitcoin price. I worry about the number of people that believe in the tech, not just the money.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this one, you just have to, well, it depends on what town you're in or whatever. But I went out to the store a couple weeks ago, and you could feel it already. People were already starting to do the social distancing thing. People were looking at other people as if they were going to spread the virus to them. There's a lot of social anxiety that used to be just me, but now everyone else is returning their own social anxiety, which is, of course, ramping mine way up as well. So, no, I think this is, and again, it was easier to say that it was no big deal before they started closing things, before they shut down basketball. It was easy to say this will pass over, like the bird flu and the Ebola, which, again, I was in the camp where I was like, yeah, this is no big deal. And I wasn't watching the news. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't tuned in. And the whole thing went up and went away without me ever getting engaged. But you have to imagine now, everybody's engaged. They canceled basketball. Like, you can't just go watch ESPN and pretend and forget about the world. Like, there is no escape. Like, for a little while there, I had the words muted on Twitter, and that made it so I only got the people who didn't use the words in their tweet. There's lots of people that just kept talking about it, but they stopped using the words coronavirus or whatever it was. And the idea was to keep it contained, right? To keep it contained to my little social networking thing. And I would only see the virus in, news.google.com. And all I have to do is not go to news.google.com, and then I don't see the virus, right? Well, it broke through that. It broke through all my filters. Like, it's in my sports show now. Like, it's in, do you like movies? They're not going to bring out the new Mulan movie. They're not filming the new Little Mermaid movie. Like, these are not big deals to me, but these are big Disney movies that are canceled. Do you like iPhones? They're going to have trouble making the new iPhone. They're saying today, do you like video games? They're going to have trouble making the new PlayStation. Like, things that we used to rely on. And that's why the stock markets are so down. The stock markets are trying to judge out forward Like, if there's still going to be businesses, if they're still going to make money, how many iPhones are we going to sell? And obviously, we're all staying home. We're not going to buy an iPhone, a new one. The Chinese are all staying home. They're not going to be able to build a new iPhone. They're going to need to get the chips from someone else. They're going to need everything is so intercomplicated. And we always just kind of, we only notice the intercomplicated when we do that stupid exercise and we take things for granted. And you're like, oh, think about how many people had to build this iPhone and how many people had to machine this and make that part. And this came from this, and this is a computer chip, and it has programming, and it has all these things. And you watch the credits at the end of the movie and you're like, wow, food service and craft service and all this food and stuff. Well, this is it. All those interconnected people can no longer be interconnected. They can't do the things that connect them together. So that's why this stock market thing went down. Look, even right now, is it still open? It's cracked below 21,000 again. So it's retreating again after they had a little bit of a bump, presumably after that Fed news that the Fed would put out 500 billion. They're going to put out another 700 billion into the market. Because they're afraid that no one's going to be able to make widgets. No one's going to be able to sell widgets. There's not going to be a new 2021 widget. There's not going to be a new 2021 car. Like these kind of things. These are like that just didn't happen with Ebola. Like maybe it happened in one country where one country had to say like because of this horrible virus, and it's no offense, it's probably a developing country, right? I was going to say third world or shitty, but no, it's probably a developing country. They probably had it. They got wrecked for sure. But the problem is this virus is so good, it's turned the whole world into a developing country. And all of our preparations, our hospitals and our medicine, and all these things, total joke. That's why I'm talking about the military. When you talk about somebody like we were laughing at them. We were laughing at the Chinese. It was like a month ago. They were like, we're gonna roll out hospitals in 2 weeks. And everyone's like, they don't care about building codes. They don't care about union rules and all these like advanced environmental things that we have here that usually I'm in support. I'm like, let's not build it on a burial ground. Let's not build it on a fault line. Let's not dam up the river to build the factory. All these kind of things. But no. This was the time. And the Chinese got out there and built those hospitals.
That's a cool thing though, right? Like
it's a cool thing, but it's not happening here. Like we don't have the organization, we don't have the structure, we don't have the central, we don't have a federal government anymore. We pretty much lost the feds, which normally good thing. They can leave us alone, let us have our medicinal drugs and whatever else. Normally all good, right? The only thing the Fed does is hide aliens from us, right? Those bastards, alien hiding bastards. No, this time we needed them. This time we needed the centralized response. The businesses needed the bailouts. The businesses needed the guidance. They need to say, we can't run our bar anymore because our bar acts as an incubator that makes more people sick. And that's not our business. Like our business is, selling drinks. Our business is music and pizza. Making people sick, not our business. But obviously we're going to go out of business unless we get funded, but we can't get funded because there's no bailout, because there's no central government. So yeah, we're in a real hard time, a bad time to be hit by this. And this is one of those, we say it all the time about Bitcoin, and we're always saying it in a positive way for our people, in a negative way for their people, that Bitcoin is a black swan. And a black swan is an event that can't be predicted. And it's an event that not only can't be predicted, but it's a sea change, right? A sea change is when all the old water goes out and all the new water comes in. Well, our new water is full of coronavirus. Everything from now on is coronavirus. So, no, I don't think we're out of this in 6 months. I don't think it's going away when the heat comes. They're saying now that heat and humidity will kill it. But there's many other countries where they do have spreads, where they have lots of heat and humidity. So, no, this is a sea change.
It's always winter somewhere.
Yeah, it's always winter somewhere, and those people are going to be sick, and the virus is going to go there. And the virus is a world traveler. The virus goes all the way around the world. The virus is experienced. He always packs his bags. He's always prepared. He's always infecting new people. And the thing about this virus that we can't understand is that it destroys its host, right? Like humanity kind of destroys its host, like we mostly destroyed the earth, and eventually all people go away. But now this virus, it makes the big time by wiping out the place that it lives. It's not a parasite. It doesn't like work with you. It wipes out the place that it lives. It's it's like nuclear guided missile. I mean, we need to get up the classic picture of like what a virus is. Let's see. Here's Google. Let's see. Because yeah, it's one of these. It's just the best one of these we've ever seen. And you didn't go to school studying these things. I didn't go to school studying these things. We got the basic little information. I could draw you a picture of these, and we'd put the DNA or the RNA for the virus inside there, and it would infect the person or the cell or whatever, and it make the cell into one of its things that makes more of itself and all that. Well, this is it. Everything,
Scary looking, aren't they? It looks like if Ethereum was an object.
We've been infected with Ethereum. It's gone way too far. So, and yeah, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I agree with everyone in the chat. Call me mad, whatever you want to do. That's fine. I'll take it. Because yeah, I think we're going to miss the old people. Like as a historian, I know it's going to interfere with books and work and other things where interviews are going to be missing. Valuable contributions are not going to be made. Even as a historian, histories are not going to be written because the people who are supposed to write them are going to pass away. But like Byzantium General says in the chat, so when do I get my Lambo? I think we're pretty far away from Lambos now. We are down 5.81%, still hovering around $5,061 with a high of $5,948 and a low of $4,513. So look at that range there, 6,000 to 4,500. That's a $1,500 range that we're rolling through. So pretty crazy times to be alive in. Obviously, if you were some kind of mind-reading, amazing trader, you could have caught all the ups and downs and already bought yourself a Lambo. What? You didn't make Lambo already? I shorted the longs and longed the shorts, and I triangled them. All of my triangles said it was time.
And the magic 8-ball.
I know. Oh, that's a good one. So we'll ask the 8-ball about coronavirus.
Oh, yeah, ask about coronavirus.
First we'll ask the price.
We've got to be really careful because we could bring on some sort of not false prophecy, but what if we predict something terrible?
Well, if it predicted it was wrong, I would just disagree. I would overrule the ball. We'd have to go 2 out of 3. Are the coronavirus fears over? Let's see. Is the coronavirus a big deal? Yes or no? As I see it, yes. So the ball agrees that the virus is a big deal. But the price of Bitcoin, 5,000, that might be a little low. Let's see. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher next week? It is certain. So there you go. The ball says coronavirus is a big deal, but the price might go up anyway. So pretty wild stuff.
Ask said Magic 8-ball if coronavirus or COVID-19, you got to be specific because the 8-ball needs the extra bits of information. Is COVID-19 going to have a higher death count than Spanish flu?
All right, higher death count than Spanish flu. My sources say no.
Yay!
I don't know. That's not one of the
panicking.
That's not one of the confidence ones. I don't really care. That sounds like they have bad sources. Bad sources, ball.
A good cap on it. That means I like that range. We're in the lower estimates now.
Well, it looks like they're mainly fighting in the chat. We are going to keep the phone lines open if you guys want to give us a call. Otherwise, we might head towards the end of this show. We've been hanging out for like 2 hours now. Dan, I don't know if you want to just hang out some more. I think we covered the virus and the price pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely a very scary scenario for a lot of people, especially with the people that are immunodeficient, the elderly that have to or have been advised in the UK to kind of hold back and stay inside and isolate yourselves. And then also for the rest of the population, what I suppose we kind of forget about is that herd immunity, the people that impacts effectively, is or the people that are least likely to die, but there's still a chance that they could die. So, you can see where there's, for every side of the fence, someone is going to end up in a bad position. There's decisions that are going to be made, like they're doing in Italy, about ventilators and where they go, and it's this hierarchy and prioritization of life, which is awful. But doctors are having to do it. But we are here enjoying Bitcoin and learning about it, and I'm trying to learn Python now. So make the most of the isolation time and just find something cool and try to do it, because it also, I'm not a worrier, but it did kind of, it has concerns for my family, but I'm just enveloping myself and immersing myself into learning like Bitcoin RPC stuff and cool things like that. So I can definitely say that it's helped not clear my mind, but make me kind of a bit more rational about things. Maybe too rational. Maybe I'm dead already and I don't even know. That would be concerning. How would I even find out?
You become a computer. You're data. You just didn't
I'm
know it.
I'm in a stimulation.
You're an android. I knew it. Well, no, I don't know. I think we're in real trouble. But we're going to keep this show going. I think it's fun to hang out, chat with you guys. We had a couple of phone calls. Thanks so much to everybody who called in. Be sure to give us
someone call in again.
I know if you call in, we'll go another 10 minutes or so. We'll take your call. But remember, talk shows got to have talk. So calling in is an important part. You can also give us a thumbs up and a share. That'll help more people find the show. That's how YouTube recommends the show to other people. You can also subscribe to the World Crypto Network. We do shows like this all the time. We've got other shows you can watch. We did a really long one the other day when the Bitcoin price was crashing. That's a pretty fun one to watch. It's like 4 hours. You can skip around too. You can fast forward. No one's stopping you. You're free. And you can also donate to our fundraiser. We had 32 donations. I'd like to see 40. That'd be cool. If you donated like $5-10, you would be in our fundraiser and you would help us reach our goal of 40 donations. Right now, 1 million Bitcoin is $1 million in Bitcoin is 196 Bitcoin 0.73. So anything you can donate will help us towards that goal.
Yeah, and I think it's this year it's going to be a difficult year for getting new interviews, because there's so many conferences that are cancelled. We've got CoinFest has been moved to November now. I can just see all the other conferences, certainly this side of summer as well, starting to clamp down, which is really annoying because I'm really poor from crypto now. It keeps on getting worse, and so now I don't even have free freaking t-shirts to look from all these conferences. So yeah, it's really sad. I need the conferences. I need free t-shirts. I need free pens because I can't even afford those. So yeah, please, make your conferences available. And if you could do like virtual reality doggy bags. I don't know. I could print a pen, or I could print a t-shirt. I don't know. Just do something, guys, please, because I need some merchandise.
I think we're going to get used to virtual conferences. They say you could go to these new VR conferences with just your web page and browser. So I might try that out, because I don't know that I don't have a fancy VR rig like all the kids these days. But yeah, they're having VR conferences, VR speeches. But yeah, I think this is going to affect every aspect of our society. We're all going to become, social anxiety, social distance, paranoid, afraid of other people, insulated within our own bubbles and our own words, our own world. So basically the whole computer geek reality continues to transform the world into computer geeks. So if this is any sign, it's probably going to be good for Bitcoin, because as these people stay home and self-isolate and talk to their other computer geek friends about how good it is to stay home and self-isolate, as we've been doing since the beginning of time, they'll learn about Bitcoin and they'll get into Bitcoin. And that's our positive end for the future here, is that more time to learn about Bitcoin, right?
Oh.
So that's about it. Until next time, bye-bye.